as we earlier said, that Egypt is launching the national strategy for human rights very soon. And also the strategy includes the 4 main axes of action, including, of course, civil, political, economic, social, and cultural rights. Of course, this is a very important event in the history of Egypt. And of course, Egypt have taken a leap when it comes to human rights. But working on it seriously and trying to develop with the empowerment and enforcing of human rights is something that is giving a big credit to Egypt as a country and as a nation. And we're very delighted to be having with us live over the phone Ambassador Ayoub, Mahmoud Ayoub, is Foreign Minister Commercial. Good morning, Ambassador Ayoub.
Good morning.
How are you doing, sir? How are you doing, sir? Of course, according to the directives of President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi, we are launching the national strategy for human rights soon. If you would like to talk to us about this particular file, as the human rights file is a very important file that Egypt have been putting it at the forefront of each of its priorities and have been registering great significance and empowerment and support to that particular file. If you like to elaborate.
Yes, of course. This launch is a very important and for the Egyptian citizen and for the Arab world as a whole. Because human rights are one of the basic rights which the Arab countries and especially Egypt has participated in its drafting and ratifying it. So we are a part and parcel of human rights for all the citizens. When this launched now, this means that President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi is putting focus on the human rights of every and each citizen, that he should have his human rights, and is all at the same time should be cooperating with the government to spread this culture between all citizens and even the deputies in the parliament. We are very pleased that it is launched now because it cements and bolsters and supports the image or the image overall image of Egypt in the eyes of the world, that Egypt is taking care of the human rights of its citizens, and at the same time it just answers many questions as far as human rights are concerned in Egypt. We are launching this initiative to prove that we are keen to establish the fact that every citizen has a right to his human rights, and at the same time the government and all its organs and organizations are part of it. Even in the police academy, they give it as one of the main topics they deal and main subject we deal in, and as even the police officers now know for sure what the human rights are, does it mean, and how to cope with it, and how to deal with the citizens in this respect. It is a great leap forward, and it was badly needed, and luckily it happens now thanks to President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi.
Well, it's very important, and I'm glad that you mentioned the security personnel in Egypt, all security personnel, because human rights is one of the elements that are highly respected with security personnel, all security personnel, either army or the police in Egypt. But for a long time, Egypt's character have been assassinated by media outlets, I mean directed media outlets trying to assassinate this picture. But when the whole world saw the situation in Egypt, the image became clear, and it was very clear that Egypt was on top of the countries that respect human rights inside and outside, especially with its governments and with its security personnel and everything. And also with the advent of situations worldwide with other countries, we have seen the loud violations of human rights worldwide with other developed countries. So the importance of developing or taking an initiative like the national strategy for human rights at this time. If you would like to also talk about the timing.
Yes, of course. When, as you rightly mentioned now, we see that incursions and attacks on the human rights of citizens in other countries of the world, in Egypt we have the opposite. We are respecting and launching an initiative as far as human rights are concerned for all the Egyptian citizens. We have seen a lot of incursions on human rights in other countries. I will not mention the names now, but it is very important that Egypt is proving that it respects human rights of its citizens. So, any criticism in this respect, it is groundless, and they not know the facts on the ground. The Egyptian citizens are enjoying now a far better human rights situation than it has been since, let's say, 10 years or something like that. We are very pleased to see that, and it's very important that the citizen knows what his human rights are and sticks to it, and at the same time, the official organization should be aware that there is now many eyes are looking to what they are doing, and we are very pleased now they are beginning to educate them, teach them, and so that they cope with the initiative of President Abdel Fattah.
That's very much true. Of course, Egypt, even for years and years and years, and ever since all the events, the bad and the good events that Egypt have been going through, it has been enjoying a great deal of human rights, especially with a civil government that has been taking over Egypt and respecting human rights. Only with that gap, when the terrorist brotherhood organization was taking a rule in Egypt, there was a violation of human rights. But other than that, we as Egyptians, who have always been known with our respect to human rights and tolerance also to the other, regardless of their identity or race. But let's talk about the main axis of action for this particular strategy and initiative, if you like to call it. There is the civil, political, economic, social, and cultural rights. These are all faces of society. If you like to elaborate over those axes, because it's very important.
When we say human rights, it means it is economic rights, the right for education, the right for good health, the right for accommodation or housing. All these are a part and parcel of the human rights of the human being. When we look to the Constitution Vision 2014, we see that it focused on the human rights of the citizens. This means that human rights is a basic or a cornerstone in the Constitution and also in the laws. When we see that this is further developed through this initiative, we know for sure that the government or the regime or the organizations and the ministries in this regard are taking care that they should cope with the needs of the Egyptian citizen as far as human rights is concerned. And it is a part of the United Nations 2030 Sustainable Development Goals. It is a part of it, and Egypt is coping with it because Egypt, according to the constitution and even according to what we have seen from the ancient Egyptians, the human rights of the citizen is a cornerstone of the development, I will say economic development also, of any country in the world, and Egypt is a pioneer in this respect, and we are very pleased that many organizations now are beginning to be aware that there is a governance, and they should know that all the eyes are looking to what they are doing, and there will be compatibility, the accountability as far as observing the human rights of the citizens, and we are very pleased that the public awareness of the human rights is very important so that we develop in the best way possible. When I say develop, I mean economic, political, social, and the culture and all the other aspects of life. We need to cement and support the human rights of every citizen so that we develop further every age.
You're right, but there are some, mediums that would require development, that would require upgrading, and this is exactly what happened in Egypt concerning civil society and the work of civil society and their voice to be able to call for upgrade of rights, like for the rights of women, for example. The upgrading of the laws or harshening the laws that are set against harassment, against child abuse, against women's rights in general. in social affairs and everything. I mean, this is also something that should be giving credit to the current parliament and also to the Egyptian administration, supporting the rights of Egyptian women.
This is a very important component of human rights. When we are speaking about the women and the children and how we should safeguard them against any incursions on their on their status and the freedom and mobility, then we are protecting the community as a whole from any incursions, from any attackers, whoever they are. The woman, the child should be protected at all times, not only by the law, but also by the society itself. The community has a responsibility. Civil society organizations are taking care and should be focusing on these facts. How to better safeguard the women and the children wherever in the workplace, in the street, in the public transportation, and on all aspects of life. In the countryside, for example, in the villages, we should keep in mind that the women have rights to live in a decent life and not being harassed in any way, in any form, by anyone. This is a very important part of the human rights of the citizen, of the human being, of the woman, and of the child. Even we know about child labor, how to protect the children from harassment and misuse and exploitation. For the women, we see that their harassment in the streets and so on in the public transportation. This means that when we are focusing on these aspects of human rights, that is the rights of the woman and the rights of the children, we are giving a big impetus to all citizens to support this initiative, because they are supporting their own families. They are supporting their own daughters, wives, and mothers, that they should protect it, whether they are the father or the male is there or not. It is very important for all of us to cooperate in this respect and don't keep silent when we see any violations in these rights.
Of course, you speak up for rights at every moment whenever you see a violation. Also, but sometimes there is a misconception. People misuse the rights. When you are given a God-given right, you should appreciate it and you should use it the right way. Of course, Egypt is exercising also another freedom, or another full right of freedom of speech, for example. Of course, Egypt is given full freedom of speech everywhere. You could find the freedom of speech in the press, you could find it in the media, you could find it in social media also, everywhere, as long as you do not violate the rights of others or the privacy of others. But some people misuse these rights under the banner of human rights. So this is also something that is against the security of our national security and the security of society in general.
It is a misconception of the human rights. My rights are, there is a border, there is a limit to my rights, that is the right of other people. Those who don't understand what human rights are should be educated through the churches, through the mosques, and through the media, and through the NGOs that
or the official channels, or the official outlets. Sure.
Also the official organs and outlets should know that human rights should be respected at all times for all citizens on the basis of equality, and that we will not develop without respecting the human rights of the citizens. It is very important and it is vital for us to do it now, and also to educate people how to be respectful of the human rights of their own and of others.
Of course.
This should be this education, to continue the education process that we should. Luckily, we began it now with this initiative by President al-Sisi.
Exactly. This is a very important other counter right to human rights. But at the same time, also there are other side effects to this particular cause or issue, which is human rights. Some organizations, international organizations or entities or policies, they trade with the banner of human rights. They make money, they go through they reach to personal interests, and try to wage wars against other countries using the banner of human rights in a false way. So aren't there any laws that should be enforced to protect us from people like that?
We should be aware that any foreign organization trying to infiltrate the government, the community here, under the banner of human rights, they should be stopped. Because we know better than the others what we need to do for the human rights. Many organizations, foreign organizations, are coming and they are supporting and they are financing some mischievous persons under the banner of human rights.
Exactly.
We know our human rights better than others do. It is in the Constitution, as I mentioned, in this initiative, and it has been there since the time of the ancient Egyptians, the human rights, and even the rights of the river, even the rights of the animal or the plants. It is there. It is part and parcel of the Egyptian identity that we take care of the human rights of these persons in this community, because we cannot develop without human rights, respect to human rights. Foreign organizations should know that there is a limit for their any advice or interference or whatever, or let us say it is a manipulation for political reasons, for political considerations, which should be aware of, and we should be very careful as far as financing of these organizations, because they are used to achieve or attain some political goals, which in many cases are against the government and the country itself.
Also minding ourselves that human rights were mentioned first by, of course, Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, with all respects to other religions, but it was mentioned by the first declaration on the Constitution in Medina. Respecting the first element of this declaration was human rights, the rights of the slaves when he freed the slaves, the rights of other citizens, for women, for elderly, even for animals. I mean, these elements and these, of course, instructions were given in that declaration of the first constitution that was made there. So it's worth mentioning also that we should talk to the whole world about it in order to also to be able to reflect the true image of Islam that is assassinated by other organizations or by other elements that are, I mean, targeting to tarnish the image of the Arabs and Islam.
When we look to the religion, whether Christianity or Islam or whatever, we find that the human rights are one of the cornerstones of all these religions. When we come to Islam, we find that it is respected the human rights and even the rights of the animal and even the rights of the plant. So it is all there in the religion. So these religious people should be more respectful to the human rights than other things. Foreign organizations who are trying to manipulate the issue of human rights, they are trying to infiltrate the community and spread their mischievous ideas about human rights. Human rights in Egypt is Egyptian human rights, which should be respected by all, and we should, all the organizations, whether media or churches or mosques, should educate the people what their human rights are and how to keep it and how to stick to it, and also to respect the rights of the others. When we are speaking about women, for example, harassment is against the law, and more importantly, is against the religion itself, in the religion I speak about. So we need to know in a better way, educate the people, especially the new generation. It's very important. That we get the new generation that human rights is for their own advantage, and it is for own advancement to the level of internationally accepted norms in dealing with other people. We are very pleased to find that this is launched, this initiative was launched now, better today than tomorrow, and we should all cooperate with the government as far as spreading the ideas of human rights and respecting it, and also we should inform the authorities about any infringement to the laws, any infringement to the human rights of other people, and we should cooperate together to safeguard their own human rights. That is to say, when we see harassment of a woman in the street, it is not, she should not be my mother or daughter or wife or sister. All the people should cooperate together to stop it and catch the culprit and give him to the police. We should cooperate together so that we make a stronger community and a stronger economy at the same time.
Right. Also, taking it from your very important phrase, educating people about human rights. Human rights does not only require laws or initiatives or campaigns or something that it should be taken officially, but also on a social level. Awareness campaigns are very important. Setting awareness amongst lower income brackets and educating them with the importance of their rights and other people's rights. I mean, your rights are also, they walk in parallel way, on a parallel direction with other people's rights. So spreading education about human rights, and you are also, to our knowledge, a member of civil society, and there is a great deal of effort that is spent by civil society to educate and empower people about their rights and their human rights according to the directives of President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi. So talk to us about the efforts taken by the civil society.
Civil society has a role to play. That is further educating people and spreading the word of awareness. Awareness of what their human rights are and how to safeguard it, how to keep it, and how to defend it. And if there is any infringement, the police should be called or the government should be called to show what is happening here or there. In the countryside, in the villages, for example, we find that all the people know each other, so there's a better consideration for human rights of the citizen, of their neighbors, of the people in the community.
Exactly.
In these big cities like Cairo, 15 million people, we need to educate the people. We need to create awareness. Education is very important. Education is not the job of the school or the university, but rather of other organizations working in the community, that they should raise and create awareness of the importance of human rights, and how, when I see human rights, it is my rights and your rights and the rights of other people. We should all stick to it and keep it and defend it if necessary.
Right. On that very important note, Ambassador Ayoub, Mahmoud Ayoub, former Minister Commercial, would like to thank you, sir, very much talking to the Breakfast Show, and you have a beautiful day.